What's up, everyone? Andy from WagerTalk.com. We are going to break down every fight on the UFC Paris card. Very excited. It's a very bettable card. There's going to be a lot of fights that are complete stayaways. Like don't put any money on them. And then there's going to be some other fights that I really like, and I believe we got some really good betting angles. So we're going to go over those, and our official plays are going to be on WagerTalk.com. Perfect week last week. 1-0 in Contender Series. 1-0 in PFL, 1-0 in UFC. That is the perfect MMA betting week. Just pick our spots, grab those really valuable units, put them in our bankroll, and we're looking to go move to 4-0. So I will have the Dana White Contender Series video up by Monday evening, Tuesday morning, and we'll have a Dana White Contender Series play as well, coming off, obviously, the win there. So let us get to the card here. And we're going to start with Farid, Basharat, and Kleydson Rodrigues here. Basharat, pretty big favorite here. I believe he's close to minus 300 at this point. So, listen, I like both the Basharats, and I think this price is pretty out of control, to be honest with you. Listen, I think he's going to win. I just don't think this is even remotely near the right price. Listen, he's a great fighter, really good on the feet. He uses his strikes to set up his takedowns. His strikes don't do a ton of damage, and I really don't like comparing his brother to him, because they're both obviously their own people. They're both their own fighters, but man, do they fight so similar. It is uncanny how much they fight very similar. They both really good striking at distance, really good movement. They do not eat hard shots. It's tough to hit them square. So Farid tends to kind of work the strikes, and then he ends up kind of getting takedowns. And I think he can do that against Kleydson Rodrigues. It's just not going to be as easy as it was against, some of the other guys that he's fought. So, we look here, his win against Damon Blackshear is aging really well, because Blackshear has looked really good. But it was just his, that was Basharat's first fight in the UFC, wins by decision. So, what he did was a classic Basharat. He uses his strikes, takes Blackshear down, really doesn't threaten the finish, but a lot of points. Basharat has cardio for days. He's not going to get tired. I love how he controls the pace. So that's what I like about him. Now, Rodrigues, he's a good fighter as well. I think he's just a little bit overmatched. You take a look at him. You can't take anything away from his last fight. It was against Shannon Ross, who's just like not a UFC fighter. And he loses a really close split decision to CJ Vergara. And I think that you can learn a lot from the CJ Vergara fight, because CJ Vergara, I think Vergara kind of won with his wrestling, and I think that's what Basharat can do. I will say this minus 300 is crazy, but if you do want to bet on it and you do like Farid Basharat, be patient and just wait until the props come out, and then just take Basharat to win by decision. You're not going to be paying minus 300. You're probably going to be paying, closer to minus 200, hopefully closer to minus 150, because listen, Farid Basharat doesn't finish, not at this level, and neither does his brother. So Basharat's and overs are really good ones. If you like to do the start round 2 parlay, any Basharat fight is probably going to start round 2. So it's a good one. I think Basharat wins. The price on the money line is crazy, but wait, take the overs. And also, if you like Basharat, just go ahead and take him to win by decision. Up next, Ange Loosa against Rhys McKee. This is a really interesting matchup. So we'll go with McKee here. Skeletor, what a nickname. So, pretty interesting here. Can you imagine your first UFC fights against Chimaev? Congratulations. Welcome to the UFC. So he loses to Chimaev, clearly. He loses to Alex Murata. Not a bad loss. Goes to Cage Warriors, rips off 3 wins in a row and looks pretty good. And he makes his return to the UFC. And the last ninja, Loosa here, we'll kind of look at it. He beat AJ Fletcher, loses to Lazez, and that's, kind of his UFC career. He lost on Contender Series, but my gosh, he fought Jack Della Maddalena and took him the distance. So that's a loss that is aged pretty good. So we're looking at the price here, and we're looking at Loosa as the favorite. He is around minus 180. I think they're pretty even on the feet. I think why this line is closer to minus 180, minus 190 is because Loosa is probably going to have the takedown advantage, and I think that's what he's going to do to win this. McKee just stands really upright. He's ripe to get taken down. It's just the guys that he fought in Cage Warriors weren't doing that. So I think Loosa is going to win this, and I think he's going to take McKee down. This is another fight that I like to go over. Now, this was another one to start round 2, I don't want to pay minus 190 on Loosa because McKee's pretty good on the feet. If it's a striking battle, I think McKee's going to be able to do damage. I believe he's going to have the reach advantage. So I like the overs in here. I don't think an early finish is coming, and I do lean Loosa to win. I don't want to pay the price, so I'll be staying away from that. But don't be surprised if Loosa wins, and he does it by using the takedowns. Up next, Nora, Cornolle, Joselyne, Edwards. So interesting one. I'll be honest, I'm not real impressed with either fighter. Joselyne Edwards coming off of 2 split decision wins. So, we look at her record. Okay, 13-4, but split against Jiyeon Kim and Lucy Budilova. She did win against Ramona Pascual, whatever, and then she lost a couple before there. So Edwards is going to want to keep it on the feet. And if you've not seen any of the film on Cornolle, I'm just going to say I don't think she's a UFC caliber fighter. I am not impressed at all with her. She's 6-1, weak competition. Her last fight against Hasna, I think it's Gaber. She threw Cornolle threw one of those front kicks right at her knee, and it injured Gaber's knee in the first round. So you really didn't get to see a whole lot. And then she gets this finish against this, poor person who's, that was her only fight. And I got to be honest, Mandar took her down early. It just, Cornolle reversed it, ends up getting the ground and pound. But to be honest, she did not look good. I'm not impressed with her at all. I actually think Edwards runs away with this thing on the scorecards. I think she pieces her up on the feet. She's going to throw more volume, especially in later rounds. Edwards, I believe, is going to have, she doesn't throw enough volume. She doesn't throw enough power. It just, I don't, Cornolle hasn't been to the third round in her last 6 fights. Meanwhile, Edwards is out here winning split decisions. So Edwards not a great UFC fighter, but she is still a UFC fighter. And I do not think Cornolle is a UFC caliber fighter at all. Don't be surprised if we get into round 3 and Edwards is, really putting it on her. So, Cornolle, 34 years old, making her UFC debut. So not impressed. I think Edwards is a really, really fair price. Zarah Fairn against Jacqueline Cavalcanti. I've heard this last name pronounced Cavalcanti and Cavalcanti. So if I'm mispronouncing it, forgive me. I'm going to go with Cavalcanti. All right. So here's what you need to know about this fight. So the UFC, in my opinion, has a Haley Cohen problem. The problem is they love her. Dana White loves her, loves that smile, loves that blonde. Except here's the thing. She's not very good. She's not a good fighter. She barely won her Contender Series fight. I went back and watched that one, and I didn't think it was close, but it wasn't a great performance. And I'm going to get to I'm talking about Haley Cohen because if this Haley Cohen has a direct impact on this fight. So Dana gives her a contract, even though she wins by a split decision. And this is the same Dana that told Knudsen last week on Contender Series that he didn't see it in her, even though she dominates at kickboxing. So whatever. They fast track the attractive Haley Cohen into UFC. They give her a female fighter making her UFC debut as well. Okay, we can get Haley Cohen an easy win. Here's the problem. Haley Cohen's not that good. What does she do? She loses to Jamie Lynn Horth. Okay. So they're like, we need to get Haley Cohen a win. I know Zarah Fairn is terrible. We got a card coming up in Paris. We can get Fairn out of here because this is going to be her 4th loss in a row. We get Haley Cohen a win, and great. So they book Haley Cohen versus Zarah Fairn. Haley Cohen gets injured and has to pull out. So now they have a real Haley Cohen problem. In steps Jacqueline Cavalcanti, and Cavalcanti is going to piece up Fairn on the feet. Cavalcanti is a really good striker, throws a lot of good counter strikes. I like her kicks. She throws some really good kicks. She brings her opponent in and then kind of counter strikes. She will move forward, but she's going to walk Zarah Fairn down, my guess, because Fairn always backs up. Fairn has absolutely no power. Cavalcanti is going to realize real quick there's no threat of big punches coming from Fairn. And in Fairn's last fight, she fought Nunez, who she was way taller than. Well, these women are going to be the same size. So Fairn is not going to have the big reach advantage, and she's not going to have the height advantage. Cavalcanti is a really good fighter. I think she beats up Fairn pretty good on the feet. I don't know if she gets finished because Fairn is big, and Fairn, just bad record. She's had trouble with weight. She's not making weight. There was talk about her moving down. Look at it. Loses to Joselyne Nunez. I don't. Some judges gave her a round. I didn't see it, but she ground and pound by Spencer, loses by choke Megan. She's terrible, and Cavalcanti is going to be the winner in this fight. I have no doubts about that. So Taylor, Lapilus, and Gafurov. This is an interesting one. They've got Lapilus as the favorite. I got to tell you, I certainly wouldn't bet on the favorite in this one. I think you get a nice little underdog price here. That's where the value is. So Lapilus has won 5 fights in a row. Not great competition. If you watch the film, okay, he's 18-3, but I don't know. These guys have good records: 12-1, 24-11, 11-0. I'm certainly not saying they don't have good records, but when you look at the eye test, it's like, yeah, I don't know. He's good, but this is a big step up. Gafurov is 3-3 in the UFC, so it's not a great UFC record, but he has been at least fighting. No Friday. Or I'm sorry, he's not 3-3. He lost. He's 3-3 in his last 6 fights, not in the UFC. So I liked his fight against Diego Silva. I like those competitions in LFA. I just think are better. And then he had a fight against John Castaneda. It was a really good fight. I thought it was close. He had a point taken away, so I don't know if that affected the judges, but it was a really solid fight. And I just don't really think Lapilus should be this big of a favorite. So Gafurov, he can strike, he can grapple. I think his cardio is pretty good. Now Lapilus can finish fights with his strike, but Gafurov can as well. I don't understand the line on this one. So I guess if I had to pick a winner, I guess I would slightly lean Lapilus, but betting wise, Gafurov, man. Gafurov is a really, really good underdog value here. So I could see a split decision. I just know that if this fight is close, I'm going to be really happy holding a ticket on the underdog and not the favorite. So Morgan Charriere and Manolo Zecchini, maybe my most confident play here. I think Charriere is the real deal, and I think he wins pretty easily, to be honest with you. So Charriere, he lost a couple here, but he has really come on the last 3 fights. I think he's looked good. His last 3 fights, I thought he just looked great, especially his last one against Diego Silva. I think he's really kind of coming into his own. 27, so he's in his prime, and I just don't think Zecchini is very good, to be honest with you. So Zecchini's 11-3, bad competition, though. He's not been fighting good one. He has plenty of finishes on his resume, but you look at his last 2 finishes, his opponents were so sloppy, wide open to strikes. Credit to him. He did his job, but he's not buttoned up with his striking. His defense is not buttoned up. And 3 fights ago when he lost to, here, I'll pull up his record here. So this loss, I thought it really got exposed, man. I really thought Zecchini was exposed. He got pushed forward, he got pushed back, and then he got taken down. The wrestling and grappling wasn't there, and he loses to Suviev, and I think that's what Charriere is going to do here. Charriere can do the exact same thing. I think this is a win that Charriere gets mostly because of the wrestling and the grappling. Wouldn't surprise me if you see a finish in this one. So I think Charriere kind of runs through him a little bit. So one of my more confident picks. So, all right, Yanis Ghemmouri and Caolan, Loughran, and this is kind of a showcase piece fight, I guess, for Loughran. I do like him, 8-0. what I like about him, I love these 4 finishes all in round 2 because when you watch, what he does is he sets up his strikes in the first round, and it's very Marlon Vera-esque where, he really reads his opponent, figures out where the weak spots are, and then in round 2, he just absolutely pounces. He's got really, really uh, strong strikes, and he doesn't get tired. His cardio is really, really good. A lot of times when you see these guys with early finishes, they gasp, but he doesn't. He seems to get stronger. I think I don't want to say he takes round 1 off, but round 1 he uses to learn, and then in round 2 he just really, really jumps in and strikes. So, his opponent, I know 12-1, but I got to be honest, I just didn't think he looked that great on film. So, I mean, he's fighting in Brave. That's fine. The loss was back in 2015. So give him credit. He's winning a lot of them. But when I watch his film, I don't see a whole lot there. So he's low volume. He tries to push his opponents up against the fence and hold them there. And he's not going to be able to do that to Loughran. He's just not. So I think Loughran wins this on the feet. I think it's a pretty decent parlay piece. His striking is just next level compared to this guy. So cardio's good. Striking is going to be way, way better. And Ghemmouri is not going to be able to push Loughran up against the fence and hold him. And he's not going to be able to win with the low volume. Loughran's just going to if Ghemmouri comes out and tries to do the low volume thing, it's going to end quick because Loughran's just going to know that there's no counter shots coming. He's just going to walk forward and flatline him. So, real quick guys, official plays on wagertalk.com, 3-0 last week. Please do me a favor, give me a like and subscribe if you like the video. And also leave a comment. Tell me if you like any of the plays. Tell me who you're betting on this week. I love the comments. I love seeing what everyone else is betting on. So give me a comment. I got to tell you, I think my most Caolan Loughran and Morgan Charriere are my 2 most confident picks. Let me know if you agree because some of these guys making their debut, maybe some of you have followed them and know a little bit more about them than I do. If you have some of the knowledge, if you can drop some knowledge in the comments section, that would be great. But while you're watching this, please hit the like button. It really helps the algorithm. So, and just grab the plays on wagertalk.com, 3-0 last week. Really, really happy with those results, obviously. And we look to keep it moving forward. Okay. Let's keep moving on with William Gomis and Lucas Almeida. So I think this actually sets up really well for Gomis for his just for his style. I'm not a big Gomis fan, but I bet on Francis Marshall over Gomis, and Gomis, got the win, a split decision. Gomis almost got finished in the 3rd round on the mat, but for this particular matchup, I just think his style is going to cause a lot of problems for Lucas Almeida. So, Gomis has that kickboxing. He fights at distance. I don't know. I'm not real impressed with his power, but I think he's going to keep it on the feet, and he's going to touch up Almeida quite a bit. Now, Almeida's last fight was against Pat Sabatini, and Sabatini took him down and just held him there. That's not going to be what Gomis does. But his last fight against Michael Trezano, got to be honest, Trezano was really tearing him up on the feet. They have that big head clash. Trezano gets a big cut above his head. And then in the 3rd round, which I thought Almeida was probably losing that fight, Almeida catches him and he goes down. We have no idea how that fight would have gone without the head clash. But I think Gomis is going to be able to use those long legs and those long strikes to make it really tough for Almeida to come in. Gomis' takedown defense is decent. If it gets on the ground, I think it's a little bit of an advantage for Almeida, but I don't think it's going to get on the ground. I think Gomis is going to keep it up. I think he wins this by decision with a really nice striking display. So I'm still not too impressed with Gomis. I hope he keeps taking the next steps forward because I know a lot of people like him. I think this just works out great stylistically for him. This is a really good matchup for him, and he wins it on the feet. Volkan Oezdemir and Bogdan Guskov. So Oezdemir was supposed to fight Azamat, and fight gets canceled. Bogdan Guskov steps in on somewhat short notice. So here's the thing about Bogdan Guskov. I legit have no idea if he's really good or if all of these finishes are because of the horrific level of competition these guys are in. Like, I'm sorry, his last fight, that guy went down. I'm just going to say he went down pretty easy. One strike kind of to the face, and he went down pretty easy. I'm not saying, just saying that there's some iffy wins here. So I don't think too much of his striking on the UFC level. I mean, sure, he can beat the brakes off of some of these, guys. I mean, he's fighting parking lot attendants. Um, maybe he comes in and he looks great, but this is Volkan Oezdemir. Volkan Oezdemir does not have a great record in the UFC. Look who he's lost to. This is crazy who he's lost to. Nikita Krylov, Magomed Ankalaev, Yuri Prochazka, Dominic Reyes, Anthony Smith, and Daniel Cormier. It's like a who's who of losses. My God. So, he wins against Paul Craig. He does have a win against Rakic and Ilir Latifi. So if my read is correct, which my read is that Guskov has fought absolute nobodies in some shady, questionable events. Guskov does not have very good striking defense, partly because nobody hits him. His hands are just kind of all over the place. We've never seen him tested by a decent, takedown, wrestler. And Oezdemir is not a wrestler by trade by any stretch, but he's at least going to test Guskov's takedown. So I think no matter where this fight takes place, I think Oezdemir should have it, just because Oezdemir is fighting the who's who in UFC, and Guskov has fought absolute nobodies. Now, my read could be absolutely completely off, and Guskov's the real deal, and the excitement behind him is for real. But I just this could be a situation where the fight starts, and you realize that this guy's way out of his league, and Oezdemir runs through him. Or it could be like, oh man, this Guskov guy, he's like this hidden gem. He was in Russia for all these years, and that 14-2 record and all his finishes, he's got great power. I don't know. I got some questions about Guskov and the guys he's fought. So, but this is definitely going to be Guskov's biggest test by far. I would lean Oezdemir in this one, because Oezdemir is going to do things to Guskov that just people haven't done before. Like punch back. So, all right. Saint Denis and Thiago Moises. This is like a fight that's just not bettable. It's going to be a war. Anything could happen. Both guys are solid on the feet. Both guys are good on the ground. I guess I would give a slight edge to Moises on the ground, but that's not a strong opinion. You can't take overs. You can't take unders. You can't take money line. This is just sit back, relax, and watch, because this is going to be an amazing fight. So if I had to pick, you know what? I'm not going to do it. I'm going to stick to my guns and say I'm not going to pick. I'm not going to be emotionally or financially invested in this fight. It's just going to be an amazing fight, and I just want to watch it as a fan. I'm not going to have any bets on this fight whatsoever. So for this fight, I will just be watching and enjoying it. All right. Man at Fairn, Rose Namajunas. We're getting Fairn as a pretty big favorite. I mean, this says slight favorite. I don't know, minus 190, minus 185. That's a pretty big favorite. We got Rose plus 155. All right, so Fairn's look great coming into the UFC. This is obviously her biggest step up. She's won. Caitlin Chikagan, okay, win by decision. That was a good one. Jennifer Maia, okay. Mayra Bueno Silva, that win looks really good now, but that was back when Mayra Bueno Silva wasn't nearly the fighter that she is now. So, the competition that they fought is definitely, Rose, but Fairn is definitely on the upswing. It's interesting. Rose is younger than Fairn, which I would never have guessed, because Fairn kind of got a late start in the UFC. So here's the thing. I think everyone is going to remember the last fight against Carla Esparza, which we should. It was a bizarre fight. That was the fight where Rose's corner is like, you're winning. Oops, she lost. Low volume. It was terrible. It was an awful fight. But listen, this is Rose, who beat Weili Zhang twice. The brutal head kick, wins the split decision. She wins the split decision against Jessica Andrade when Andrade was good. And, she's fought the best of the best. Joanna, I love the plus money on Rose. I really do. Like, I don't think anybody really questions the ability of Rose. It's all like mental. Like, what are we going to get? Is her corner going to be idiots and tell her she's winning when she's not? Is she going to be really low volume? What's going to happen? She's coming off of a loss, and every time that she has lost, she's come back with a win. And I think she does it again here. This is such a big step up for Fiora. I think if Rose is dialed in mentally and physically, she's going to hit Fiorot with some strikes that Fiorot's not experienced yet. I think Rose can wear her down over the rounds and end up winning a close fight to decision. I just love the plus money on Rose. I think everyone's going to remember the Esparza fight, and that's why we're getting this price. And if she fights like that, she's going to get smoked. Absolutely. Because Fiorot's not going to stand there and not throw punches. No way. So Rose, I think, can do some really good work with her kicks. I think the striking can be there. And if she's buttoned up and focused, I tried to look her up on Instagram. I couldn't really find much to see, how she's doing or how she's looking like, with her mental space. But I just love the plus money here on, someone with the pedigree and the experience like Rose has. Maybe this is kind of a Sean O'Malley type of moment for Fiorot where it's like, okay, the trajectory, up and coming fighter, and she takes the next step, maybe. But give me that plus money on Rose Namajunas. So I think it's a great fight. I think it's close. And again, we go into the last round and it's really, really close. I'm really going to be happy if I'm holding a ticket that's plus money in a close fight like that. So, all right, main event time. Ciryl Gane, Serghei Spivak. So I'll start with Spivak here. I mean, his improvement has been really fun to watch. So, he's got a great record in the UFC starting with 2020. Beats Carlos Felipe, beats Vendera Olenek, loses to Aspinall, who doesn't, beats Greg Hardy, of course, but he does get the win. Gusto Sakai looked good against Derek Lewis, gets the wrestling, takes Derek Lewis down, gets the submission. So he has looked better and better and better with each fight. So you're kind of banking on that Serghei is going to get even a little bit better coming into this fight. And so I look at Ciryl Gane, obviously the quick loss to John Jones and then the loss to Francis Ngannou. But he has this win against Tai Tuivasa where he beat Tai Tuivasa on the feet, where he just pieced up Tuivasa and eventually gets the finish. So is Spivak going to be able to wrestle Gane and take him down? I don't think so. And I think that's what this entire fight is going to be based on. Can Spivak take Gane down and win it on the ground? Because if it stays on the feet, I think Gane wins. And Gane does a good job at creating space. And I think he can do that with his kicks and his jabs against Spivak. And he's only going to need to stuff a few of the wrestling attempts from Spivak to really, really frustrate Spivak. And then I think it becomes kind of a battle on the feet, and that's where Gane should be able to pull away. So I'm not going to bet on this one. I do lean Ciryl Gane. And, listen, John Jones, Ciryl Gane lost that fight before they even stepped in the cage. He was mentally beat. The loss against Ngannou, that's a bad look. When Ngannou shows up in, knee braces and is injured. And so you got to believe that Gane is going to do his best to stay off the ground, because on the feet, I think it's Gane's, all day. So I'm going to pick Gane to stuff takedowns, kind of not get in harm's way with submissions, and turn this into a striking match where he has the advantage. So I'm going to lean Ciryl Gane. It's not going to be a play that I invest in, though. So it's just a lean. I wouldn't bet this, because if Spivak does get it on the ground, listen, that's Spivak's world. He could easily rip off a submission. But Augusto Sakai submitting Derek Lewis, these are not great wrestlers and grapplers by any stretch, where Gane at least has the tools to stuff the takedowns and make it interesting. So, all right, Farid, Basharat, Kleydson, Rodrigues. I like Basharat to win. The price is crazy, so maybe take overs in that one or take one win by decision. Loosa and McKee. I lean Loosa because I believe he can get a takedown on McKee. Not real strong bettable. I like overs in that one. Joselyne Edwards, I love to really dominate on the feet over Nora, Cornolle, who I just don't think is UFC caliber. Low volume. I like Edwards in that one. Cavalcanti easily over Zarah Fairn on the feet. Taylor Lapilus and Gafurov. I like the sprinkle on the underdog here, as I think the fight's going to be pretty close. And if you got a close fight, you always want to have the dog. Morgan Charriere, I believe this is my most confident pick over Zecchini. I think he wins with wrestling and grappling. Loughran over Ghemmouri. Ghemmouri is way too low volume for me. Loughran should do a really nice job in round one and setting up for the finish in round two. Boy, that'd be an interesting bet. Colin Loughran by TKO in round two. Last four fights. Wonder what that pays out when the props come out. Last four fights, he's finished in round two. So take a look at that one. That one could be good. William Gomis, Lucas Almeida. Not betting on it, but slight lean to Gomis. Overs in this one would be good because Gomis is just not a powerful, finisher on the feet. Oezdemir and Guskov. I'm going to go with Oezdemir in this one. Kind of banking that Guskov is a little bit fraudulent, especially with some of his wins. St. Denis and Moises, not betting. I have no opinion. I just want to watch that fight because it's going to be amazing. Rose Namajunas. I love Rose at the plus money. I think everyone's going to be on Farid, and I think people are just going to remember her last fight and how bad she looked in that one. I think we get the more dialed in Rose, and she wins. And then Gane versus Spivak. Leaning Gane, I think he keeps this on the feet and wins a striking battle over the course of the fight. So, all right, guys, that's going to do it for us. Again, please hit the like button. Leave me a comment. Tell me what plays you like, what plays you don't like, and what you're betting on. And tell me if you agree with that. Colin Loughran and Morgan Charriere are my most confident picks. Potential parlay there if you happen to be a parlay better. So all official place will be wagertalk.com. We're having a really good year in MMA, 3-0 last week. So really happy for that. And keep an eye out for the Dana White Contender Series video. I will have Dana White Contender Series video up, and Dana White Contender Series play will be up at wagertalk.com 2-0 in the last 2 weeks. So thanks, guys. Have a great one. Let's hopefully cash again on the UFC Paris card. Good luck. We'll see everyone later.